All right, Hank. If this is the hill you want to die on, I'll fight your brat. Come on, Bobby boy. Let's rumble.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak! I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame death party!
To ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, and I'm back on the show this week, but I'm not alone. I'm joined from the Windy City, as it's currently blowing like anything out here, but it's not blowing snow, so that's not so bad. I'm joined from the city of Kitchener with...
Alex, the producer, with like 100-kilometer winds today. Holy crap.
Yeah, the weather has been so nuts. Like, we had this really bad snowstorm from like Thursday until like Saturday, but it started out as a big thaw, so much so my sister-in-law's basement got flooded, and then it turned into like inches of snow per hour. Then all the roads got closed, and then it was pretty nice. And then today it's just like wind, and tomorrow's supposed to be like +5 Celsius and mixed sun and cloud. So winter is certainly on its way out. I think it's... How does that go for March? Yeah. It's
March, in like a lamb, or the reverse. Generally, whatever weather you have at the beginning of March is always the reverse in Ontario at the end.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see. So big thanks to Alex for taking over the show last week, as I enjoyed Valentine's Day not in a hospital this time,
and
which was nice.
And timing was perfect, as I was losing my voice that weekend. So
yeah.
It was the most quiet NPR sounding recording I did, and I'm like, is this good enough? And I'm like, it's gonna have to be, because I won't have my voice for a couple more days.
Oh man. But so thank you for doing that. So last week for Valentine's Day, me and Blair spent the weekend together, got my homework done in really good time, and we decided as a couple we were going to watch Disney movies that I'd never seen growing up.
Which is a surprisingly big amount.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like my classic Disney list. And I got a story about that. We watched Snow White. I'd never seen that. We saw Cinderella. We saw Coco, which me and Blair both cried during. That's such a beautiful movie. Yeah. Definitely top 3 Pixar. And we also watched Ghostbusters Afterlife, because I got the gift set from her for Valentine's Day. She got me a bunch of Valentine's Day candy, which I can't have for too much longer, so it's slowly phasing itself out. And she's getting me any game I want on any console I want, and I get some points for Halo for her. This was really clever, and I'm kind of proud of myself for this. So one of our reviews this week, I actually had timed so it would arrive on the same day her flowers would arrive, and it just happened to work out the way that I wanted it to for timing. And so I told my wife I had to be home on Saturday, or somebody had to be here to sign for a package. And I was working with Jazwares to receive a product for review this week, which is their helmet replica from Halo Infinite, which you'll hear that review later in the show. So when I ordered Blair's flowers, the guy said, it'll be here. Here's the tracking number and the flower person that I use. I'm like, okay, the timing is going to work out. And I just kept telling Blair all week, okay, you need to be here. Halo's going to send me something on Saturday and someone has to sign for it. Maybe it's another pizza. There's a story. You'll find out that story next week. And Blair got the flowers and she's like, you lied to me. And then she started crying. So we had a really...
You guys are such sucks.
Oh my God. And I got what I'm getting her for Valentine's Day. It won't be done for a while, but our first Christmas together, she got me the Halo 3 Master Chief helmet that came with the Halo 3 Legendary Edition. So I'm getting her the Mjolnir Helmet, which is the one of the Halo helmets with cat ears on it. And a lot of people in the Halo Infinite community either love the helmet or hate the helmet. I love it personally because, cats. But I got her that in black and hot neon pink with I think I got her a silver visor. So that'll look really nice. We should be getting that in just a few weeks. And she was really impressed. So it was a really, really, really nice weekend. Other than that, I've been doing homework all this week. I'm actually doing more homework as soon as I'm done tonight's podcast. I actually have a bunch of, I have to write lyrical poetry, which is way harder than it sounds. And I have to analysis John Keats, and I can't remember the other poets' names, but this particular one is way above my friggin' pay grade, so I didn't really understand it.
I are not smart enough.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm not getting this particular type. I just
when you're reading it, when you read it, are you like, me fail English? That's impossible.
It's like I don't like this, and it's funny because I used to say I didn't like the poetry of Ginsberg, but Stream of Consciousness is the poetry I like the most because I can be the most unrestrained during it. This one I'm writing odes and sonnets, and it's very, very, very peculiar.
Yeah,
so other than that,
poetry, it is eye of the beholder kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Kids think that poetry is all limericks and rhymes, and then it's not always that. And then sometimes it's like there's some poetry where you read it, and or some of these artists too, and the teachers love it, the academics love it, and then the reality is, you know what?
Sometimes it just doesn't land.
Sometimes it's crap. But
yeah, sometimes it's crap.
Poetry is only good if the people reading it enjoy it, and if the vast majority of the public don't enjoy it, then it's not really good poetry, is it? It's only good for academia. So you're going to get to determine whether or not that's for you, basically.
Yeah, actually, that reminds me. I don't think I mentioned this on the show. I've talked about it on social media, but I submitted my first poetry pieces to a local Indigenous anthology. There's a good chance I'm going to get published with this stuff. Yeah. So I was like, that's fun. So I'll find out in a couple of weeks whether I'm getting published or not. And then I guess finally, me and Blair were watching the Peacemaker show, which came to a conclusion this past week, which was utterly fantastic. John Cena must be protected at all costs. So the finale aired on Thursday night. Blair wakes up on Saturday morning and says, Michael, I had a dream about John Cena.
Uh-oh.
And I'm thinking, oh no. I feel like a little bit less of a man. She never went into details. I'm not going to say I'm...
Okay, that's for her. That's for her. She just felt guilty enough to tell you.
Yeah, so I'm thinking, you know what? If it had to be anybody in the world, at least it was Peacemaker. And
at least it was somebody that you couldn't physically fight off if you tried.
Nope, John Cena would destroy me anyway.
And I'm not saying fight off as in just like
flail out.
I have to fight for her honor, and she wants me to fight for her honor. You would just turn to her and say, no.
Or do you have a gun? It's the
Yes.
only way I'm going to
Yes.
beat John Cena is with a gun.
Do you have a gun or some sort of poison mist I can spray in his face?
Exactly. But yeah, so that was kind of funny that she felt that guilty to tell me, and I think that's pretty hilarious. But hey,
I mean, he does
Peacemaker.
dance around a lot in his underwear in there.
You know what? That's one thing I will say, and then I'll throw it to you. The Peacemaker series, if DC can maintain this level of quality for each of their expanded universe shows, Marvel's got some competition coming. Hard
And
competition.
this is the quality that was already there in Doom Patrol. So, I mean, they've already got 2 shows.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see if the Commissioner Gordon show holds up.
I want to
the
see
Batman show.
if the next season of Doom Patrol, which is supposed to be the last, has a crossover with Suicide Squad.
I hope so.
Because some of the characters, even if it's a tertiary character like Beard Hunter or something, they're just as crazy to like. Doom Patrol is basically made up of Suicide Squad people, like emotionally damaged, but like the kinds of villains that you'd see.
Yeah, like I'm hoping, like I'm really hoping Suicide Squad in its second season ups the weirdness factor.
Or Peacemaker
again.
second season, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's basically suicide. I'm going to suspect and expect that the next season will be essentially what the next Suicide Squad movie would be.
Yeah,
because
like it's going to be set up
like,
or something.
They may not be able to get the funding together to make the movie until maybe a second or third season of this comes around. But if they can sort of turn the show into that, sure.
Yeah, like I'm hoping we see DC heroes like The Question, and I would love to hear it again played by Jeffrey Combs, which would be really cool.
They are probably going to go very Silver Age like Doom Patrol did.
Yeah, that's
like
why
very,
I'm saying
very
The Question would
1950s,
work.
1960s. Yeah, like if they're probably not going to dip into Batman villains.
Well, they did mention Batmite, so now that they've canonized him,
Yeah.
if you told me the next season of Peacemaker has Gentleman Ghost or Detective Chimp, I'm in. I am so in. Give me Detective Chimp would be great as their inside man at like Belle Reve or something.
And I know that Doom Patrol you haven't seen yet, but like there's a guy in there. Was it Flex Metallo? I think is his name. He's those comic books where they'd have the advertisements where it's like you could get strong like me if you have this vitamin mixture, whatever. And you purchase, the almost like the bubblegum ads where it would show like a scrawny guy getting beat up by some guy, and then he goes and works out, buys some gym equipment, works out, and becomes huge. And it's that really 1940s looking style. Well, that's what that character is. He's like a 1940s bodybuilder whose superpower is he can flex different muscles to affect the world around him. Like flex this muscle really hard, and he can make he can send out a frequency that can make your brain explode. Flex a different muscle pose, and he can send you into another dimension. Flex another pose like they did in the show, and he made everybody within a 10-mile radius have an orgasm. That's the kind of character that's in there. Some of the bad guys are like that, like Garguax the Decimator, who is this 1950s looking green alien guy with a big, like, almost like a bathrobe that he wears. And he shows up and they made him cool. Like they do that on Doom Patrol, and that's the same vibe that we get here. Only difference is Doom Patrol is very psychological. It's all about their own inner demons. Whereas this is more straight up comedy action. So they could do that. They could easily pull it in there. I had weird dreams, but not like that. I didn't dream about John Cena, I'll tell you. Not to say that I wouldn't, but I didn't. So that was basically your week then?
Yeah. Although, don't let me forget that we have a contest running, and if you want to find out how you can win 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate, then you got to stick around till the end of the show. Just make sure I don't forget that. So what have you been up to?
Well, this week I was catching up on some review items that I've been working on. One of them will be actually in the show here. Actually, 2 of them, because we did sort of do a dual one together. But beyond that, this was a week of weirdness. I had some people come by and look at some of the plumbing issues and stuff we've had in the apartment, as you've probably heard before. The whole I was going to be swimming underwater a few weeks back. So it's been sort of some maneuvering around here of that, and it's been mostly catching up on things, catching up on TV, catching up on movies, planning to go see movies and then having to cancel because of the Armageddon-like weather out there, where we had like one day minus 30 and the next day 20 degrees, and then minus 30 and like 2 feet of snow, and then 100 mile per hour winds. It's been a little nutty, more so than that, to the point where I was just like, I'm just going to cocoon up and not do much for a couple days. But I made sure I caught up on all my stuff and sort of cleaned my slate of gaming wise. And we're going, to enter the next month pretty much fresh and clear, because it's going to be a pretty busy month for games for us.
Yeah, it's going to be a thing. And I've got a lot of RPG books to review. I actually just got a brand new box set from Wizards of the Coast that collects Xanathar's Guide to Everything, another book, and it has the new Monsters of the Plains, which will be coming out individually later on, but for now you can only get it in this box set. So that'll be coming up fairly soon from me. So a lot of good stuff to talk about. So that's pretty much what we've been up to this past week. Once again, stick around to the end of the show, how you can email us at feedback@thisweekingeek.net, and how you can win 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate from Microsoft Canada. So we got news, reviews, and more, but first things first, we're going to take a trip to Zeta Halo, and this is going to be my review of one of the coolest prop replicas I've had in quite some time. Here we go.
Are you scared?
No. You?
Of course not. I've got you to keep me alive. Oh, and 63 millimeters of titanium alloy wrapped around our neural interface. I'll be fine.
Good to know.
Greetings, Spartans. It is I, Mike260, and I'm here with an exclusive review. I got to take a look at the Jazwares The Spartan Collection Master Chief Helmet Replica. This is a GameStop exclusive, which currently retails for about $99 US, although you can find them in Canada as well. Most people have pre-ordered these things, so if you find one on the shelf, well, consider yourself lucky you got something really cool in your hands. So let's start this thing off. So there have been a few Master Chief replica helmets over the years from Halo 3, Halo 4, and Halo 5, and they've been of varying degrees of quality. Some have had lights, and as far as I know, none of them have had sound. So that's what sets this thing a little bit apart. So this thing does fit my fairly large noggin. There are straps included on the inside if you have a smaller head, maybe a little bit of a bigger head, but I find it does grip my ears a little bit when putting on, but wearing it is fairly comfortable, all things considered. I had my wife Blair wear this as well. She has a standard size head, and she could wear this with her glasses without any difficulty. I couldn't get my glasses on in this thing, but maybe if I play with it a little bit more, I probably could. One of the things that sets this thing apart, though, is the lights and sound. There's a switch at the back, which is near where Cortana's chip would go in the back of your head, and there's a little plate back there that says 117, which is your Spartan designation. And the helmet turns on, and there are switches on either side of your cheekbones where the lights are, and one activates the lights and one activates the sounds. So you actually have full light in this thing. Now the sounds, there's a bunch of different ones, and there's voice lines from the game where he says, "This is Sierra 117, the very famous line about missions. And he also says, "Acknowledged, I need a plan," or "I've got a plan," or something along that lines. And a lot of UNSC weapon sounds. There's a commando in there. There's a battle rifle. There's the assault rifle. And the Bulldog shotgun, which is really, really, really cool. But my favorite one is probably the shield recharge and shield draining sound. The first time I put this thing on, it feels like you're a Spartan. It literally feels like you're at the Oni facility on Reach. You're one of the first generations of Spartan 2s. And for just a few seconds, in that magical moment, you turn this thing on and you hear the shields recharge and you hear Master Chief's voice in your ear. It's beautiful. It is absolutely a transcendent experience. And it's like being in the Halo video games for just a couple of moments. To talk about some of the other quality with this helmet, it does have weathering to it, which is something I do find kind of cool. It isn't the pristine, dare I say, battle dress uniform you would have from, say, like Halo 2. It looks like the Chief has definitely seen some action. Obviously, being part of the Mjolnir weapon system, these things get beat up and scuffed up quite a bit, so this one definitely didn't roll off the assembly line looking all perfect. There's scuff marks, there's scratches, and it really gives the helmet some personality. And I'm sure if you were a more entrepreneuring person and if you wanted to add some more battle damage to this thing, you most certainly could if you're a do-it-yourself cosplayer. And that's where I think this helmet excels, because if you were to wear this all day at a convention, it's not heavy. It's not going to strain your neck. You're not going to be taking your helmet off. And I actually asked my wife, Blair, this very, very specifically. When you breathe out, does it fog the visor? And she wore this for about a good 5 to 10 minutes, walking around the house, looking ridiculous, I might add, but her helmet visor didn't fog. When I wore it for an extended time, because I do have a bigger head and I do breathe quite a bit heavier, it did fog up a little bit, but I'm sure you could use some of that anti-fog spray on the inside. That would probably help relieve some of the stress. Another thing to mention is the sounds for this thing are incredibly loud. It also comes pre-packed with 3 AAA batteries, so you don't have to worry about installing them the first time round. It does sound really good out of the box. There also is an included stand that just says Master Chief on it. If I did have one minor complaint, I wish it said John 117 or something like that, but it just says Master Chief. That's fine. I do think that is pretty cool in and of itself. It tells you who the character is. I mean, if you bought this thing, you should know. But it is a really nice looking piece, either for as part of a beginner cosplay, if you're building your own kind of Spartan armor. I mean, with the advent of 3D printers, there's a number of people that do some amazing works. But if you just want to do something quick and fun, or if you don't want to be wearing an expensive ass helmet all day, this is a really nice alternative. But this is going to look nice as a part of your Halo collection, or if you really want to up your Halo Infinite game and wear this while you're playing. I don't recommend playing this while playing ranked, but hey, that's just a little bit of friendly advice. However, though, all things considered, the Jazwares helmet that we're looking at today is a wonderful piece to be adding to your collection. So, can I recommend the Jazwares Halo the Spartan Collection Master Chief Helmet Replica? Yeah, I really can. I've been moving towards more focused replicas in the last little bit, and while I haven't been impressed with selections from, say, Hasbro's Lightning Collection with their Red Ranger helmet and their Pink Ranger helmet, I'm more in tune with the Jazwares stuff, because if this is the quality that they can offer at a very competitive price point, I'm really hoping we see ODST helmets. I would love to see a Commando, maybe a Hazot, maybe the CQB helmet, or I'm trying to think what would be a really weird one. The EVA by Emil, so you could have that skull on it and look really badass. If they could pull that off, not gonna lie, that would be pretty much an instant buy. So you should be checking this out. Go check your local GameStops right now. You might be able to find this thing. Otherwise, go talk to some people in Onion. Maybe they'll pass one along to you. So until next time, Spartans, this is Mike260 out.
Radio for Vuitton. Heavy lift gear. We're not leaving them here.
Yeah, you're not.
Oh, crazy fool. Why do you always jump? One of these days, you're gonna land on something as stubborn as you are. And I don't do bits and pieces.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek,
Welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman. I'm joined with Alex, the producer. Well, we're going to have a short show this week just because me and Alex have literally been recording almost the entire day. But we do have to cover some big news that happened this week. Obviously, we learned about the passing of Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman. What more can be said that hasn't already been said? People like Dan Aykroyd have given their piece. Lots of tributes from around the world have kind of poured in. Obviously, we're pouring one out for Mr. Reitman and his family. So thank you for the laugh.
Little trivia that most people didn't know is he provided the mocap for
Harold Ramis.
For Harold Ramis's character at the end of Ghostbusters.
I think that's a nice way to bring it full circle. So once again, thank you, Mr. Reitman. And I'm sorry to bring us down on that note, but hey, you've done a wonderful job. Thank you.
We may have to do a retrospective on his movies at some point.
I think that's a really, really good idea for a loose cannon, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe that'll be our first one back of the year, because that's really fast.
Well, we actually have a couple that are review items we're supposed to be talking about for them. So
no, you and Aaron can do that one. I'll join in on this one.
Yes, we will patch through a bunch. It's going to be a rapid fire once we get going with that.
Yeah. All right, so our first big story this week comes to us from GameIndustry.biz, and it, well, coincidentally enough, ties into Halo. So this story came out a couple of days ago, so we may see some developments in the next couple of days, but Halo composers' royalty fight could threaten the TV series. Marty O'Donnell and Mike Salvatore instruct lawyers to explore injunction blocking show's release as part of the Microsoft suit. An ongoing legal dispute between Microsoft and original Halo composers Marty O'Donnell and Mike Salvatore could complicate the planned launch of the Halo TV adaptation scheduled to premiere on Paramount Plus next month, as of this recording, March 24th. As reported by Eurogamer, O'Donnell and Salvatore have instructed their legal counsel to look into getting court injunction that would block the airing of the show as part of their lawsuit against Microsoft. In a suit filed in June of 2020, the pair accused the Xbox maker of failing to credit or adequately compensate them for the use of their work on the original Halo Combat Evolved. They said some of the most iconic music they created for the game had been licensed to Bungie before Microsoft acquired the studio in 2000. While Microsoft has paid them royalties on that work, they claim it hasn't provided a required accounting of sales to ensure these royalties were accurate. Microsoft declined to comment to Eurogamer. O'Donnell has engaged in a number of legal actions in recent years with a variety of outcomes. After his termination from Bungie in 2014, O'Donnell sued Bungie for unpaid work and vacation time, and the matter was quickly settled. The next year, he won an arbitration decision in a dispute over Bungie ownership shares he was forced to give up upon his termination. However, that arbitration outcome also ordered him to surrender his rights and all copies of his music of the Sphere's work on Destiny. When he began sharing that music on sites in 2019, he was found in contempt of court and ordered to pay $100,000.
So basically, know your rights, buddy. And this, as much as I say that the artists deserve to be compensated, the artists also should be informed of what they own and what they don't own,
and how far that goes. Ultimately, this comes down to a contract not being negotiated properly. Did they get screwed out of money? Probably. But if you sign the contract and you had counsel,
yeah, I have a feeling this isn't going to go their way. I don't think this is a case of I think where they're going to get hit is this is going to be determined as a work for hire that they did.
Yeah,
and if that's the case, this is going to be very similar to what happened with Doom.
Like, ultimately, I think what should happen is Microsoft has more money than these guys do, and if they want to tie it up in court forever, they could, because Paramount Plus is counting on that adaptation coming out on March 24th. There is marketing material out there. There is, like, they just did, like, as of today's recording, they did IGN Fan Fest this past weekend where they talked about the Halo adaptation. The fact that Paramount Plus needs this type of content because it's not available in all kind of territories. It's confirmed this is coming out in Canada because Paramount Plus in Canada is really anemic in terms of the content it offers.
More than like 7. Well, yeah, we have when I checked, we had about 40 television shows, about 40 movies, and in the States there's over 2,000.
Yeah, like
and to the point where anything new coming out, it's not even 50-50. About 80% of new content coming to Paramount Plus, even now, the new ones announced, have already been bought up by Bell to be used on their own television shows, meaning we won't get it on Paramount Plus.
yeah, like for you in the States, when you want Star Trek Discovery, you get that on Paramount Plus. Up here in Canada, you can watch it on the Sci-Fi Network, or sorry, on CTV Sci-Fi,
which is a dumb name for the old Sci-Fi channel.
Yeah, or you
For
can
space.
watch it on Crave. So,
And in the rest of the world, it's
on Netflix or Amazon.
Yeah, as the contracts go up, they're reverting back to going on Paramount, but not the Canadian shows, because Bell is purposely keeping it. Even though Bell has less viewers, but they're keeping it anyway.
Yeah, like
so there's some contention there that I know Paramount is not happy with, but they're stuck with this old contract they had that even allows renewals on the one party's behalf.
Yeah, like this is a problem that's going to get more and more annoying as time goes on. And when it comes to the success of the Halo TV shows, I expect these guys to fight harder, but I know the composer for this is the same person who did the music for Netflix's Jessica Jones. And they said during IGN FanFest, music will take inspiration from and be inspired by classic Halo pieces. So they were very careful to not use the two Halo composers of O'Donnell and Salvatore's name.
Even a little bit, it's enough that they could argue. Also, what's going to come? The artists are going to have to be very careful, and I am in support of obviously an artist retaining the rights to their property. If they don't play their cards right, they could be lawyered to death and lose ownership of their product.
Yeah, like
because they're being petty. And this sounds like they're being paid, probably even in the upwards of $1 million or more. How much more do you think you need?
Yeah, like, I mean, it's great that you wrote this song that is ultimately one of the most enduring pieces of the last 20 years. I mean, I'm sorry, it is.
And here's what's going to get argued. They have accepted the money till now, and even if they complain, they're still accepting the money.
Yeah, like
if they were turning down the checks, they'd have a case. But they've accepted the money. That's accepting the money. So, this is what I don't get. It's obviously a greedy thing that they're doing right now. And if they think they need to be compensated for their work, it's obvious. You know what? Get a better contract initially.
Yeah, you needed a better person to be negotiating on your behalf. I mean, they didn't have any idea this would become the phenomena that it did, but nowadays you need to think ahead.
Do you ever hear about this kind of shit happening with Bear McCreary or with John Williams? No, because they get a proper contract initially and they move on.
Yeah, like they've got people who know what they're doing. It's unfortunate. We'll see how this plays out before March 24th, but I'm going to suspect this is going to go Paramount's way.
Yeah.
So our next story also confirms about Paramount some things. This one comes courtesy of Variety.com. Star Trek cast, including Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, are returning for a fourth film. They're boldly going back. Paramount is going to enter negotiations for Star Trek stars Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Zoe Saldana, Carl Urban, John Cho, and Simon Pegg to return to the Enterprise for their fourth tour of duty in the venerable sci-fi franchise. The announcement was made by J.J. Abrams during the Paramount Investors Day presentation on February 15th. We are thrilled to say we are hard at work on a new Star Trek film, which will be shooting by the end of the year, and that will be featuring our original cast with some new characters, I think, that are going to be really fun and exciting and help take Star Trek into areas you've just never seen before, Abrams said. We're thrilled about the film. We have a bunch of other stories we're talking about we think will be really exciting, so we can't wait for you to see what we're cooking up. Until then, live long and prosper. The six actors first stepped into their respective iconic roles as Kirk, Spock, Uhura, Bones, Sulu, and Scotty in 2009 Star Trek, directed by Abrams, which reset the Trek timeline and allowed for the reboot to exist unencumbered from the hundreds of hours of Trek continuity that had come before.
Which has caused the great rift of the fandom ever since.
Which we've called the Kelvin timeline.
Which not entirely, like it was there with this film, but this was the breaking point. Everything after this has caused a massive rift. and maybe this is going to be a way to fix it. Who
Now
knows?
the article does go on for quite a while, but one of the things that I should probably mention here is Paramount was close to bringing these people back, this cast, once before. In 2018, S.J. Clarkson, Jessica Jones, had signed up to direct a sequel that would have reunited Pine's Kirk with his late father, played by Chris Hemsworth, reprising his performance from the 2009 Star Trek. That film never materialized. However, Paramount reportedly couldn't close a deal with Pine and Hemsworth. Since then, insiders say the studio has done market research to determine audience interest in the rebooted cast. Given the long wait period between Beyond, which lost money for Paramount, and prospective new Trek film, execs determined there was still lasting audience enthusiasm for Pine and Quinto and the rest of the cast in their established roles, which allowed the studio to feel comfortable moving forward with bringing them back.
Well,
Now,
you know how much of a big fan I am of Star Trek. I own Beyond on 4K, and I've
never
never
watched
watched more than 2 minutes of it. I started watching the intro and hated it so much with every fiber of my being, more than I've hated any movie ever, that I turned it off and left it on the shelf with all my other Trek.
it's one of the ones I'm going to watch. In fact, I know on Future Imperfect, which is our sci-fi franchise show we do here on TWIG, I would maybe dare us to go through the Kelvin timeline.
I can't.
And
I can't do the second one again. I can't do it.
I'm going to try and find something positive to say about everything and see if I can do that, because I want to go through it with
positive is that
critical
Nimoy
eyes.
appeared one final time. Like, that's it.
I think I like the designs of a lot of the Starfleet stuff.
Hey,
I like the phasers are cool.
We're a Hollywood studio, and we are promising you that we're not doing what you were afraid we're doing. Oh, by the way, we lied after the movie opened.
Yeah, that was a bit of a
lying
bait
to the
and
public.
switch.
Not, and we're not talking like sneakily. Bold face, staring in our faces, lying to us, and until they got our money. That is, I can't trust them ever again. And the third film, I will watch that. It will be painful. Maybe we'll have to do it as a commentary, because I can't do it just for the enjoyment.
Oh God.
That being said, they could fix this. Also, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What are they going to do about the Chekhov situation?
Yeah, because Anton Yelchin unfortunately had an accident and he died as a result of his injuries. What I might do is give him a happy ending and say he left Starfleet and started a family. He's very happy on Earth.
Do you do that, or do you not bring attention to it whatsoever and have a replacement for him in general? And do they do what they did on the animated show, which is they had that alien with a long neck thing?
Oh, you could do that, or the Katarian, the cat person.
They
I'd
could
be
do
okay with that.
That's who they replaced him with on there, I think, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't, or no, was Chekhov? No, Chekhov was in the cartoon. I know that they had a different helmsman. Specifically, they had a couple different aliens. So you could do that. You could argue, like, if this is jumping forward, several years, they could just be that one of the things they're wrestling with is that some of the cast some of the crew has passed on because of missions that went awry.
Yeah, like I'm really hoping like they do something respectful. One thing if I had to say what I wanted as the new bad guy for the 2009 reboot, because they've talked about them in the past, they've only been seen on view screens, I think. I want something with the Tholian assembly would be really cool. Or maybe have them fight the Gorn Confederacy. I know in the video game you fought the Gorn. I don't know. I think that'd be really cool. I mean, maybe you give us a big screen version of him firing diamonds into the Gorn's heart or something.
There's a reference in the game. The one thing, the game had more to do with the Prime Universe than this one did, the actual show, because there's a reference, I think. We don't have Aaron on or Steve to give us. I'm almost positive at the time. I remember laughing that there's a reference in the original show to Gorn's giving birth or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think it was Bones having to help Gorn give birth. And it happens in the game.
Oh, that's funny.
you hear it over the radio that he's like having to help them give birth or something, and it's like, as weird, and like it was one of those bonesisms. He's like, you think that's crazy? You try, helping, a Goran live birth or something, and it happens in the game.
See, as long, like, one of the things I don't want the 2009 or the Kelvin timeline universe, they are not allowed straight up. You don't get to touch the Borg, because I think Kelvin Borg is one step too far.
It would go so far off the rails.
However, I am open to the idea of them revisiting the Guardian of Forever. I'd be okay with that.
Or how about a
Trelane as Q?
They haven't done Romulans yet.
Yeah, or Mud.
They could do that first encounter. I think they want to keep that maybe separate for the shows, but the Romulan encounter, or do they do an encounter with the Andorians and just have a big fight with them?
Or like maybe like I think there's been Andorians sighted in Kelvin. I don't recall. It's been so long.
But this would have been a time when we were still kind of with them, not so good.
Yeah, I'd be okay with them doing something like that, or even if they wanted to. This I would allow only because I think it might be interesting. If they wanted to revisit the V'ger idea, maybe you could do something with that. Maybe
that might be where they're going with Discovery right now.
That's what I've heard. I haven't watched it.
Yeah. Okay.
Life is Pain. I know there's a founder that shows up.
Life is beyond pain.
Life is beige.
Like, I almost feel like David Cronenberg agreed to do this because it's like watching physical body horror every week that it's on. But could they go there, or do they go with something? Oh, knowing that it's J.J. Abrams and he's going to lie about it being, original, is it just going to be an episode where they go back in time and save the whales, but he's going to lie about it the whole time until it happens?
You know what? I know in Lower Decks they had the dolphin people show up. I'd be okay if they referenced the
what's
talking
gonna happen?
Whales.
He's going to have Q show up and everybody's going to scream with anger.
See, if it was John Delancey's Q, and if he said,
but it won't be. It'll be some other hot and upcoming young actor who shows up, and they don't even do an homage to him, and he's going to be on the team, and then magically things are going to happen, and then he's going to snap his fingers, and he's going to be Q, and they're just going to ignore that there were any other Q ever before.
I don't. You know who they could bring back for the role, but I don't think he could carry an entire movie. In Voyager, they had John Delancey's son play Q Jr.
No, you know what they would do just to piss everybody off because they can?
Tom Holland is cute.
No.
Benedict? No, wait, we already did that.
No, they'd make it worse. They would bring in Andy Dick, and instead of playing the hologram, he'd be the new Q.
That would be kind of funny. It's not going to happen, but
it would involve me running with a knife up to the screen at the theater and start tearing at the screen just to get it off my screen. Realistically, they've tried new aliens before. They've tried old aliens before. The smart move would be they did the Romulans, but it was like our Romulans from the Prime world. Yeah. If they're going to do a time travel-y one, and I know that the plan was originally to get it so he could meet his father, so they could get Hemsworth in there. Hemsworth ain't coming back for this. He's too big. He's too big and signed on with
He's busy.
He signed on with Disney. He ain't leaving. They would have a chance to get, if they're going for a classic villain or somebody like that. They've already done, Khan. Surprise, surprise, right? They'd already did Khan. They wouldn't go with Khan. They shouldn't go with Khan again. That would be so.
No.
And he's also signed up with a better, bigger company too. They would go with something. If they're going to do time travel, they could do, City on the Edge. They could do the Hitler thing, the time travel.
No, that's way too charged right now.
But he would do it and lie. No, if they're going to go with an alien or classic aliens that we've seen, they probably wouldn't do the Salt Monster ones. They probably wouldn't do...
Salt Monster might be actually kind of cool if you made it like here's what I would do. Do it as a whodunit on the Enterprise. The Enterprise is dead in space. There's no help coming for 4 days or whatever. And the salt monster's picking people off on the crew one by one.
You know what?
That could be fun.
If they're going to do a classic story from the original TV show, they should do the one where they're having them fight the aliens on the ship. The one where Sulu has his sword fight. Where they every time they die, they get revived to reset the game over and over again. Because it's just a game to see who's going to live and die. Mm-hmm. They could do that one. Or more than likely, instead of Q itself, they might do... Remember that was the Apollo one where they found the aliens that were masquerading as the Greek gods, and the one where they made Uhura kiss them.
Yeah.
They could do something there, and they would alter it around and make it so that a couple guys kiss or something, because they have to make it just a little different. But they might grab something there. At this point, because I have no faith in Abrams himself handling Trek or any movie ever, I would rather them make up a new alien.
Yeah, I want a new alien, or I would allow them to revisit V'ger. But you're right, with Discovery, it'll likely go that way.
Or if you're gonna go somewhere out there that, because it's a different timeline and stuff, and things are changed around, and you don't want to go with Q, you don't want to go with something like that. How interesting would it be if they're going up against some alien who appears to be one alien, but it turns out that it's a founder?
I'd be okay with that.
Like they start detecting, and they detect a trail. They're like, "Where'd it come from?" And they're like, "What's the?" They go, "What's the Gamma Quadrant? Like, what's from there? We've never even encountered that."
If what would make me pleased as punch, but it won't ever happen, and I think it would make Aaron very happy. Make the Shackleton Expanse canon, and find something weird in there. I think that'd be really.
I mean, you could do something
cool.
like that, or again, you want to set up. If they wanted to set up new movies, and again, where they're really going off the rails and changing things, where people are going to be mad at anything Abrams does because of how far down left field it's gone, but you want to make something interesting and go off the beaten path, have them encounter the Cardassian, like the entire Cardassian fleet at some point. Like something has altered so dramatically from events that have happened, and because it's a butterfly effect, ever since the 2009 movie, that Cardassia has seen us. We're on their radar. Something that we
maybe they're rapidly expanding or something, right?
Yeah, something that happened here that happened in his father's generation trickled out and has rippled forward. And you could pinpoint it. Something has happened where Cardassia comes and conquers, because they are so much more advanced than we are at this time. And because we're not ready for them for another 100 some odd years. They come and get us, and this is what sets the time travel thing in motion. They have to go back, and he has to go back, and he has to set things right, which ultimately changes their entire fate. Basically, erase the Kelvin timeline from existence. They have to correct Spock's problem. They have to correct everything, including,
the destruction of Vulcan.
Yes, they have to solve that. They have to solve it. Technically that's in the future for them, right? But they have to go back and what they can only go back in time. They can't move forward, obviously. So they have to go back and have to correct his father's death at the hands of Nero.
That'd be cool.
And it's because something that happened there didn't just trigger the diversion for him. That's what sends the ripple effects out and massively changes the future. Like, they get a vision of, let's say they get a vision from something of, maybe from the city on the edge of tomorrow. What was it? The
Guardian of Forever?
Guardian of Forever. They get a vision of the future, and they jump forward to the TNG time, and it's just havoc and overrun between, and they can show the Borg in that vision, the Borg and the Cardassian, everything is lost. And they're like, what was the event that changed it? And then they find out it's his father's death at that time.
I've got one for you. I just thought of it now. Let's say we take this to maybe make it a little less grand scale, such as resetting an entire timeline.
Please let them reset the timeline. Please let them reset the timeline.
I would be okay with a Section 31 movie and say it's somebody has assassinated the enterprise, or somebody has assassinated the Federation president or the council. Somebody on the Enterprise is responsible. So it's the entire Federation hunting down the Enterprise, and they have to go looking for new allies to clear their own name.
Oh, I just thought of something real dark.
Okay, what do you got?
They're being hunted, and we see them being hunted because of this assassination, and we get about 20 minutes or 30 minutes into the movie, and they're like trying to figure out, Kirk is talking to Spock and Bones, they're trying to figure out, what caused this, blah, blah. And they get called to the bridge, and then he's like, what, what's the news, or whatever. And then the seat turns around, and it's a deep faked version of Chekhov.
That would be bad.
A deep fake version of Chekhov, and then it turns out he's a founder that has shapeshifted into look like Chekhov because Chekhov's been dead for years.
Actually,
that's so dark. I'm sorry. But okay, replace Chekhov with there's another crew member, somebody who's been on their crew for the last couple of years.
Maybe but it's Nurse Chapel or something.
But in reality, like when they're investigating something, they start investigating the trail of what happened. And they find, a body, they find some evidence, and they realize it's DNA from somebody that matches somebody on the ship who's currently there. But how could they be there if that person's dead? And that's when they realize it's a shapeshifter or somebody who's been cosmetically made to look like a crew member.
Yeah. See, this is Abrams could pull this off because of Alias. I'm willing to be open to this. Obviously, it's new Trek. We'll probably check it out. But
the biggest problem is, as much as the people work hard to make these movies, and all the crew and animators work hard, problem is his core team is very lazy when it comes to thinking of things that make logical sense.
Yeah, for some reason, he is this powerhouse in Hollywood, and in the last couple of years, it's not deserved. I mean, look what happened
details, and he hasn't
with
been
Star Wars.
Devil's in the details, and he has not been detail oriented where it matters. And I mean this
not since Lost.
And even then, Lost went off the rails in the last 2 seasons. He has a very hard time following through with anything. So I mean, it's going to have a good premise, but will it work its way through? And again, he's looking to do this. Can he get them all?
I hope so. I mean, I want to see Zachary Quinto back as Spock. I loved Chris Pine's Captain Kirk. Urban's a great Bones. I mean, and Peg's a good Scotty. Lately. Yeah, like
Peg's going to be the easiest one to get. He'll just do it. That's no question.
He's like, it's fun. And Zoe Saldana, as far as I know, she just finished Guardians 3, so she's got some time on her hands.
Working on that. And Peg has been working with Paramount now for years. He's filming 3 Mission Impossibles back to back.
Yeah,
so he's working with Paramount. He's going to basically leave Tom Cruise's set and work and step right on to Star Trek.
Yeah, so hopefully this is successful. We'll have some news by San Diego Comic-Con, maybe. We'll see. So yeah, that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. And me and Alex are actually going to take a dive into yet another Paramount title. If you can believe that, we're climbing that Paramount mountain today. We're going to be taking a look at the John Carpenter film that came out in the 90s that isn't John Carpenter's Vampires. We're going to be talking about Escape from LA. So we'll be back right after this, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
Welcome to the theater. For everyone's enjoyment, we'd like to remind you of the following rules. No talking. No smoking. No littering. No red meat. No freedom of religion. And remember, all marriages must be approved by the Department of Health. Failure to obey these rules will result in immediate loss of citizenship and deportation to the island of Los Angeles. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, this is Mike the Birdman here, and I'm here to talk with Alex, the producer, for a joint review from one of the latest releases from Paramount Home Entertainment. We are looking at the 4K Ultra HD plus digital code of the Kurt Russell vehicle, the John Carpenter classic, Escape from LA.
Which, if you ask the fans of the series of his movies, they don't think it's a classic. I do.
I do now. I just saw this. I was really, really impressed with this, actually.
Maybe I should start because I have a bigger history with this.
Yeah, please.
I had not seen Escape from New York, before seeing this film. This was the first movie I saw in theaters in Kitchener before we even lived here. We were visiting town when our family was looking for a place maybe here to rent, or in the early to mid 90s, so this would have been about 95. Yeah, that makes sense. And while we were here, my dad was going to go check out houses, and my mom said, all right, let's go to the movies. There's something playing cheap at a theater downtown that is now since burnt down. We had 2 downtown theaters, actually 3 of them. One of them is now condos, and then one of them is still a theater, and then the third one was this one. It was burnt down in a big fire a few years later. So we went to see this there, and this was like the coolest movie to 8-year-old Alex. So I didn't know this was a sequel. I didn't know anything about it. It's obviously a little less R-rated than the original movie, and so this is my first experience. The first movie I saw in the town that I live in, and then years later I had heard that people said, it's just a rehash, and the joke is that when he was contractually obligated to make a sequel, he just made the same movie and changed a couple words and made Escape from LA. And you know what? In that sense, I almost like it more than Escape from New York, and that's my history with it right there.
With me, I saw Escape from New York when I was in high school, and I thought it was goofy, and it wasn't until I saw In the Mouth of Madness with John Carpenter that I really started to appreciate it, because I knew him as the Halloween guy, but I didn't know him as doing like Prince of Darkness or In the Mouth of Madness or even John Carpenter's Vampires. I was very, very new to his style of filmmaking. So watching this movie for review, this is a slice of the 1990s action movie boom.
It's right at the peak. This was right before the CGI fests of the late 90s started coming out, when they weren't quite ready for that yet. Like, this was right after True Lies, right around when Arnold was doing Eraser, and right around when Bruce Willis had like Die Hard with a Vengeance coming. Like between 94 and 96 was peak 90s action before CGI took over.
Yeah, so in this movie you got Kurt Russell back as Snake Plissken, you got Stacy Keach, you got Cliff Robertson as the president, you got Steve Buscemi as kind of a dirtbag,
and driver.
And you get Pam Grier playing a transgendered person named Carjack, and it's
Peter Fonda as the surfer.
Yeah, Peter Fonda as the surfer.
And did you catch Bruce Campbell as the Surgeon General?
Yes, I thought that was so good. Like, it's such a fun movie, but what it boils down to is Snake has been enlisted by the government again to go recover some item again, and now he has a virus in him because that trick worked so well last time.
Instead of recovering the president, he's recovering the president's daughter.
Yeah, but it turns out there's a more sinister thing.
Who's been kidnapped, only not really.
Yeah, so it's incredibly 90s, but the ending, in retrospect, watching it today through today's lens of technology, Snake is a very interesting individual if he were to exist in 2022.
He's not a traditional anarchist, but push him the right way.
Exactly. So this movie, if you loved Escape from New York, this is required viewing. Is it one of John Carpenter's strongest? No, but it's most fun.
And it's faster paced, and obviously people have talked to death about the bad CG. That's just a product of the era.
Yeah.
What this has that I think people don't talk about enough, other than just the visuals being nice, overall, outside of the CGI water scenes, is he took the soundtrack from Escape from New York, which were sparse and more like Halloween, and he really amped it up with The Rock. This has a better soundtrack than most other Carpenter films outside of maybe The Thing, Halloween, and Big Trouble in Little China. This has the best of his 90s scores.
Yeah, like this movie, it's fast, it's fun, it's ridiculous.
The visuals look great in 4K.
Yeah, like it looks like the blacks are nice and deep in 5.1. It's great. I even listened to this on the official Xbox 7.1 surround sound headset. It sounds beautiful. If I did have one complaint about the disc, there is only one special feature, and it is the original theatrical trailer, which you heard a clip of that at the beginning of this review. And it definitely sets the tone for the movie, but I would have loved to have seen a commentary from John Carpenter, because I know he hangs around and plays video games. In fact, we talked about how much he recently said on Twitter how much he loves Halo, so figure that one out.
This was the beginning of him when people ask him, sequels to your movies, what do you think? And he says, I put my hand out and checks magically fly into it. This was the first time he made the movie where he didn't care. But it's almost like that didn't care attitude was a big FU to the industry. He basically duplicated his original movie, and 20 some odd years later, now we're seeing the glory of it.
Yeah, like, I think this is worth picking up if you are curious about, Snake Plissken. Please pick up the first Escape from New York, but Escape from LA, I think it's a fun sequel. I had a fun with it, especially if you love that big 90s goofy action.
It is a great, have a couple friends over, pop in a couple double feature, have a few brews on a rainy day and laugh with your friends kind of movie.
Exactly. This is a perfect companion to The Rock or anything Michael Bay made in the 90s.
If you want to pair it with another Kurt Russell movie, pair it with Soldier.
Yeah, or what's the other one he did? Did he do Point Break?
No, actually, you could pair this with now, and again, different studio, but if you're keeping with Kurt Russell starring, you could pair this with Tango and Cash.
Yes, you could do that. So ultimately, from Paramount Home Entertainment, we can, without a doubt, recommend Escape from LA, and as Snake said, welcome to the human race.
They say we play a little Bangkok rules. Nobody draws until this hits the ground. You ready? Draw.
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do!
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
All right, guys, welcome back to This Week in Geek, and thank you, Snake Plissken, for sending us back to the Stone Age. All right, so let's talk about the strange, unusual, and usually entertaining things that happened around this great planet we call Earth. And our first story comes from Gizmodo.com, and this is news that I'm sure to thrill parents everywhere across this great land of ours. Baby Shark is getting a feature-length movie in 2022. The viral mega hit Baby Shark, the most popular YouTube video in YouTube's history, will become a feature-length movie for Paramount.
Is it the most in history?
Yeah. In 2023, according to a press release from Viacom CBS. And we already feel bad for all the parents who are about to experience the repetitive song yet again. Then there's a song quote. The movie, first reported by Deadline, was announced Tuesday by Brian Robbins, the chief content officer for movies and family entertainment at Paramount Plus, as part of the Viacom CBS investor event. The content is being co-produced by Nickelodeon Animation and Pink Frog Company. Baby Shark, performed by Pink Frog, first hit YouTube in June of 2016 and became an instant sensation. The song, which gets inside your head and doesn't leave no matter what you have to do, has over 10 billion views on the video platform.
Oh my lord.
Making it the most popular YouTube video ever. There's no word on what Baby Shark movie will entail, nor how many times you'll have to hear that damn song stretched out over what we assume will be 70 to 90 grueling minutes.
It can't be as bad as the Fred movies.
No, but John Cena's in those, so there's something. Paramount Plus announced an assortment of new family content on Tuesday, including three brand new movies with SpongeBob SquarePants, the first being released in 2023. There's also a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated movies or series coming in 2023, as well as a Transformers animated show planned for 2024. Dora the Explorer is also getting a reboot this year. Almost half of Paramount Plus subscribers will have watched kids and family content recently, which is a significant gain over last year, according to Chief Programming Officer for Viacom CBS Streaming. As we've known, Nickelodeon's long-standing success, the kids and family audience is incredibly loyal, and we see that on Paramount Plus as well, with kids and family ranking as one of the strongest genres on the service in terms of both engagement and subscriber acquisition, Robbins said in a press release. So As they stay for our shows and look for even more of them, we're doubling down on giving them what they want by expanding the universes of the characters they love best, Robbins announced. Now, I saw something related to this. Evidently, Blue's Clues is getting like an Into the Spider-Verse type movie. I don't know whether that was a meme or if that's a legit thing.
Right now, if listening, you're like, why are we always talking about Paramount? It's because Paramount had a very big news week.
Yeah, like it was surprising. Like
other companies do their upfronts in like May.
Yeah, this is in February. And this is the earliest I can recall.
This is just for their network, like for the streaming network. They haven't announced anything for their channels they own either.
Yeah,
like there hasn't been anything for CBS. There hasn't been anything for Showtime. There hasn't been anything for CW that they co-produce and co-own. It's just been the streaming. And I have a feeling it's because March is the new fiscal year and they wanted to end strong by announcing everything for the streaming platform now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're wondering, we are not Paramount shills. We are, however, reading the one or two of the like 15 press releases they announced in 2 days.
Yeah, like it was a very heavy news week, and outside of a few other stories, this kind of dominated things. I mean,
is the Baby Shark one the Baby Shark do song? Is that what that is?
Yeah,
because I've been able to avoid it because I don't have any young children around me. I've only heard it in the periphery from you in your place.
Yeah,
you've had like friends over that have little kids.
Yeah, like
now I thought that was one of those Wiggles songs.
I think Baby Shark as a feature length movie, it depends on how you aim it. It's going to be aimed at preschool kids, but I've also seen some pretty entertaining preschool kids movies.
Is it going to be 70 minutes of just the song on repeat? Because I would laugh if that's what it was.
I don't know how they're going to do it. Like, obviously, they're going to need to do the big streaming hit version that plays on radio that isn't too annoying. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'd like to know who they're going to get for a voice cast.
It's going to be a full orchestra, you think, for a final song?
They'll get somebody really popular, like how Pharrell does the music for the Despicable Me movies. They'll get somebody big to do it.
T-Pain and Little John.
Yes.
Yeah, Baby Shark.
But yeah, like it'll be
something. You got T-Pain going do with his auto-tune.
We'll see who gets the money for this. I think it would be the ultimate artistic sellout if you got like Elton John or like Lady Gaga to do it. It'd be something ridiculous.
Ultimate sellout?
Paul McCartney does Baby Shark.
I know. Oh no, it's got to be somebody. Be like, oh, we've got Eric Clapton playing guitar on Baby Shark.
Oh God, here's racist Eric Clapton or anti-masker Eric Clapton. Although coming from this announcement though, the new TMNT show does look cool, and Transformers, I don't like the description they've given.
I watched the preview, and the humans look bad, the Formers look good.
To me, when I read the press release for this, and I've read some surrounding news stories about it, it's going to be aimed at that kind of Nickelodeon kids humor. Now, that can play really well if it's written well. So
I would have hoped they would have gone the way of Star Trek Prodigy, which is a Nick show that
has some humor
that will play for the kids, but plays heavily to the adults. For anybody that doesn't know, it is a direct sequel to Voyager in that it takes place in the Prime universe of Voyager. In fact, it's the only one we've had any show since 2000 and I guess
Lower Decks takes place after Voyager.
Lower Decks takes place after Voyager and is goofy.
Yes.
Very goofy in the sense that it doesn't further lore at all.
Not really, no. Not in any meaningful way.
Just a couple references to Riker showing what he's doing there. There's been a few moments, but it even has the feel of, it is like, hey, let's fast forward somewhere in the realm of 5 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. And this could have been season 8.
Oh, wow.
Like, I know you're a little behind on it, right? Like,
yeah,
you haven't watched the whole thing.
I watched the episode where they brought back the old characters. It was a little jarring, but I'm thinking, this ain't bad.
Yeah, it's after that, the second half of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's full on like
Trek.
Trek to the point where, do you know who the captain of the ship is?
It's Chakotay, isn't it?
Yes, and you see
The
a hologram of what happened. So and there's more as it goes on to the end where things are revealed. Like, you're like, oh boy, it is direct in your face. Here is Prime Trek, and it's handled well. Ignore some of the comedy stuff for the little kids, because there's a little bit of that. There's some balance issues, but the show matures as it goes. Mm-hmm. There is a very good episode where they're all out of phase, in that everybody is acting at a different time speed. So they have to find a way to work together to build a device to fix them from being torn apart, but they're all interacting at different speeds, and they have to find a way to do that. And Janeway's hologram is being phased in and out with each of them. And it's very, very clever in how it's done as if an actual episode of Voyager would have been done.
That's very cool. I may have to take a watch of that.
So yes, so like, I'm praising it like crazy because it is that good. And yes, there's some annoying, like the main character kid is a little annoying, but it's a kid's show. You got to remember that, right? It's a kid's show that doesn't treat its audience like kids. And if that's the way they want to go with some of their other programming, it would be great. I just hope it's not all going to be like the last TMNT looked like trash. Like I don't know what the actual programming was like.
Oh, Rise of the TMNT grew on me. It started
visually looked like garbage, though.
I would disagree, depending on the episode you watch. I reviewed one of the discs last year or the year before last, and the episodes I watched, I found really, really good. I remember it was, I think April was trying to throw a birthday party for Splinter, and it was very weird and very, very, very surreal. But the pilot didn't inspire me, but the episodes I saw later were much, much better.
Okay,
but the proportions are weird too.
Yeah, it's similar how for a while now a lot of shows are trying to copy the what's it called, Steven Universe style. I do not like that style.
Yeah,
I don't like shows where I can like certain things that are super deformed. They're always off model. Every scene, everybody's a different size and shape. It hurts to not have continuity in the art style, in my mind. So that's just a personal preference.
Like the 2012 show for TMNT, I wrote that off at first, and I think that's my favorite TMNT show. Like, I was genuinely...
That's the one that came after the movie, the cartoon movie, right?
Yeah, that's the one that had Jason Biggs was involved for a long time.
Yeah, I heard it was
as Leonardo. Yeah, it's really good.
You know, I watched the original. Obviously, I like my 5th birthday was turtle themed, in that I had we had like pin the mask on the turtle my mom made. I got turtle slippers, turtle pajamas, everything turtles that year, because 5 years old, that was 91 or 92. That was like right in the smack dab middle of the height of the fame, right? And then the next year it was all ruined because Power Rangers came out. But like, I am a big Turtles fan, but I remember watching a bit of the 2003 show, 2004.
Yep.
And I remember that Turtles Forever was really well done, that movie.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm always willing to give them a try. And they announced a bunch of other shows too, but this is probably the weirdest of the bunch. We were like, what, really? And I know if we hadn't talked about Baby Shark, we might have actually put the SpongeBob one here, because it's a little controversial in that the creator of the show has passed away, and he had been trying to avoid and purposely shot down a lot of spin-offs, a lot of changes to animation styles. And basically after he passed, the first thing they did was
Coral, right?
Which has been not received well by critics and fans. Mm-hmm. The animation style and the third movie did not look good, did not perform well. There's a fear that they're milking it to death. Not trying to be disrespectful to.
It's their Simpsons, because you can always make more things of SpongeBob.
Yeah, so hopefully, like the weirdness of it is like it's kind of weird that he passes away, and now they announce a bazillion things till you realize that they had been wanting to do this for a while and he was holding them back. Now, I'm hoping it's more in line with the style of SpongeBob. There's a lot of classic kids shows and even little kids shows like this Baby Shark thing. A lot of those fads, they're starting to almost moved past their prime and starting to fade away. As we record this, Arthur is ending today.
I'd rather have an Arthur movie,
and that's a
really
PBS,
good finale.
That's a PBS show. It's the longest running kids show I think ever, and its last episode is airing now. It started in '97.
I used to watch that show a fair chunk after school, actually, just because it was good animation.
Well, that's what I mean. It wasn't for a PBS family show. It wasn't bad, and it's ending right now. SpongeBob, I forget, did it have its final episode of its regular show? There's a lot of stuff. Baby Shark, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but if this is successful, I don't know. What is this? Like little baby song memes can be turned into movies? I mean,
I don't know. I'm trying to think what's the next big thing. I mean, I honestly do not be surprised if you see a TikTok movie, because they did the emoji movie from a couple years ago. So
are they going to make movies out of all the weird, disturbing YouTube videos of people dressed up as Peppa Pig?
I don't know.
Peppa Pig eats poo burgers. I remember that was the video that popped up with 400 million views.
How has Blippi not gotten a movie yet?
What's Blippi?
Let's just say there was a diarrhea incident, and that's all I'm going to say, and let you investigate that, because that's how weird that story gets.
Okay, well, as far as children's shows, I mean, how have the Wiggles not had like theatrical movie yet?
I think they did in like the mid 2000s, but I can't commit to that 100%.
I'm trying to think what else Paramount would own or other studios would own that is like that level of kid fame. Like,
did Bob the Builder ever get a theatrical?
Probably.
I think he did.
There's a Playmobil movie that tanked really bad last year.
Yep, I remember that, which is weird because I remember the Lego movies were doing really well, and then Ninjago did like no business
because nobody knew what the hell it was.
And Lego Batman kind of fell a little flat. I mean, it was good and entertaining.
2 Lego Batman movies?
There was Lego Batman that had Michael Cera and Will Arnett and Zach Galifianakis. Yep.
Oh, it's just that. Sorry. It's that Lego Batman. Movies. Lego Batman was in the first Lego movie. That's right.
Yes. Yeah. So there were 2 Lego movies, and then there was Lego Batman. Then there was Ninjago. I'm surprised we never got a Bionicle one, in all honesty.
I think that was in the works at one point.
I know they did computer animated specials, but there was never, and I think there was like a TV series.
Well, there's
nobody
all
remembers it.
They still do all the direct to video ones, right? Of all the Warner ones. So they still do those. And I'm trying to think other like little kids toys, like really little kids. I mean, you had your My Little Ponies one. I don't know who.
And that's getting rebooted right now.
But that would be through Hasbro. That'd be E1.
Yeah.
As far as anybody else with like really little kids shows, like
I know Teletubbies aren't a thing, but that's a nostalgia property.
Yeah. What was the one that was like that? The really weird kid puppet show in Canada, Nanoland or something. Nanoland or something. It was like a little puppet that would go blah, 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 make weird sounds. There's always little kids ones, but I guess we haven't really watched like really little kids shows because we were well past that, and we were well past that group that would have watched. I guess you could turn on like, what was it? Not Teletoon. What's the one? The Treehouse.
Although I will say the Clifford movie had a surprising amount of heart to it. I think you could do that if you did a limited series of that with that level of special effects in it. I think might be okay.
What about the Berenstain Bears?
I would do that in I don't know how I'd do that.
Or what about the Mercer Mayer little critter books?
I would like to see that done because I never did. I think they've done something with that property, or maybe like
why don't you bring back Rupert Bear?
Rupert would be great. Actually, I want them to make another Paddington movie because it's weird. My opinion on those movies has softened. As my wife used to call it fictional bear. I used to really like that movie upon subsequent viewings because it was so innocent.
Well, and a lot of the British ones are Postman Pat, and his black and white cat. Like those. I know Thomas the Train could probably use a reboot. Was that Paramount that put out the Thomas movie?
It might have been. Actually, my wife just gave me a suggestion but I think it's owned by Warner Brothers. I think it's time for a new Tintin series. Because the one that was on in the 80s and 90s was awesome.
Tintin's a French comic. Tintin would work. Paddington would work quite well. And for anybody that, I don't know how big it was in the States. Paddington was really big in Canada. And I mean, it was I think British run as well. I don't think it was a French production. It was and there were two versions of it. There was a version that was like just reading the book and it was like animating the pages of the book, but the cartoon ran, I think, 6 years, and that was really popular here. I think Inspector Gadget's probably due for another reboot.
I was about to suggest Inspector Gadget would be really nice.
And Care Bears as well, but I think it depends on who owns a lot of these, right?
Yeah, it also depends on it doesn't just boil down to animation style. It depends a lot on the writing, and I say that as someone who likes My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because that show transcended what it could have been. That show could have been just a toy commercial, and it wasn't. I'm not saying Baby Shark needs to be a dissertation on what man's inhumanity to man, but I'm saying if you took the right property and if you give it the right care, like you had mentioned Care Bears, you could do a lot, because I think kids today are a lot more emotionally aware of what's happening. I think there's more empathy with certain children.
Looks like the Raccoons is coming back, and that was all about that sort of stuff, so that could work. But you know what? I know that she wouldn't be around to do it anymore, but PG Katie's Farm, you need streaming networks especially need programming and need something different. And as simple as it was, they had millions of kids tune in to watch a lady play with plasticine animals on a fake farm, where the camera would zoom in on the animals and she would move them and talk like a kid would actually play.
You know what I would love to see?
A simple show like that can work and be translated into a movie even nowadays. You could do these things on dirt cheap budgets, because you can't tell me that the Baby Shark movie is going to cost more than like $2 million to make.
There is one I would love to see, but it would be mostly for a Canadian audience, and you'd have to find the right way to do it with honor and respect. It's owned by CBC. There's a documentary coming out for it sometime soon. Mr. Dress Up. Mr. Dress Up is a show that premiered in February 1967 and ran all the way until February 1996.
I think it would have to be a cartoon. I don't know if you could do a live action version without him.
Yeah, I'd be okay with a cartoon version as long as it had the blessing of Ernie Coombs' estate and the right people were in the right places. I'd be totally fine.
He may be too old to do the voice now. Even I don't know. Colin Fox would have been a good animated version. Mm-hmm. He's the guy that would appear in a lot of Canadian productions. I think probably most known for, if I'm trying to think about how Americans might know him. Mm-hmm. If you didn't watch Sci Factory, he appeared. Okay, in the Goosebumps episodes, was it Haunted Mask? I think he's the guy that owns the shop.
I think so. Yeah.
So he's one of those, perpetually in our productions of programmings. You know what? Goosebumps and all that. Who owns Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I know that has the reboot going on Nickelodeon. I don't know whether it's getting picked up for a third season.
Okay, then who owns? We know Goosebumps. Was that Universal that put that out, or was that Paramount?
That's Disney now, and Disney is doing a Goosebumps reboot.
Okay, well, I'm trying to think I don't know of a lot of other. Baby Shark I've heard of, and I mean we've gone on long enough with this one story, but it's just it's interesting trying to think of what other phenomenon have there been for little kids outside of the Wiggles and Baby Shark, which I thought Baby Shark was a Wiggles song.
Yeah.
So the fact that it isn't, that's news to me. That means they can grab anything. This is sort of like the fad that they did years ago when let's turn Battleship and all these other video or tabletop
board
games into movies. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. So final story for this week, now that we've taken up a lot of your day. This one comes courtesy of KPIC.com. KPIC 4. Mascots from around the country join search to find pilfered Portland Pickles mascot. That's certainly a mouthful. So, Portland, Oregon, Dylan T. Pickle, the mascot of the Portland Pickles baseball team, still hasn't been found since a porch pirate lifted the mascot costume in Southwest Portland earlier this week, so last week. But the list of people on the lookout for him is growing, and so is the list of donated items for a reward. Everything from pizzas to pasta, from concert tickets to Blazers tickets, to a collection of pickle books from Powell, to an expensive bottle of bourbon, to $1,000 worth of pickles. And sports teams, mascots from around the country, even Canada, are posting about Dylan on Twitter to get the word out and get more people involved in the search. At the Pickle Jar, the team's merchandise and memorabilia store, Kristen Solomon was picking up a present for a good friend who just had a baby named Dylan, and just like the pickle. I couldn't find anywhere else to get to with the right spelling until I found this, said Solomon. But she also had heard what had happened to Portland's Dylan, and she wonders where he might be. It's one of those things, like, you never know. Randomly, somebody's going to find it on the side of the street or something like that. She said, hey, it's happened before. In 2016, Timber Joey, the mascot of the Portland Timbers, lost his outfit and gear when the thief broke into his car and took it. A sharp-eyed KATU news crew noticed somebody sitting on the street wearing the gear, and Joey got it back. That's what Dylan fans are hoping happens this time. Oh my gosh, I think if I saw a giant pickle walking down the street that we'd all be like, citizen's arrest, right?
How
Like,
much do you want to bet somebody stole it because they wanted to make a pickle Rick suit?
Well, looking at it, I've seen footage of the package being stolen. You would have to know this package was delivered, and you would have to know it came off a Delta flight or something like that. Basically,
do you think is it a publicity stunt?
Possible.
I don't mean perpetuated by the team. I mean by whomever stole it to try to get internet infamy.
Maybe. The quote goes on to say, "You have to return this. You're not the real Dylan. You're an imposter," said Solomon. Solomon added,
glad it wasn't Texas or Detroit where they just like shoot you for stealing it.
Yeah, or if somebody stole the Philly Fanatic costume, or I'm trying to think who else is
there's a Screwball or something somewhere too.
Oh, what's the name of shit. He's the mascot for the Philadelphia Flyers. And he's Gritty. If somebody stole Gritty, there would be blood running in the streets.
If somebody stole the Toronto Raptor,
yeah, that super fan.
You think Canadians are friendly? You just wait. It's funny that we don't really have a lot of other big mascots for our other big teams,
but everybody knows the Raptor.
That one, even when the team wasn't doing well in the 90s and early 2000s. You don't mess with that Raptor. There are some crazy super fans that will stomp your ass out to get it.
There is a guy I think who would offer a bounty. Like, I'm talking like literally like a Mandalorian level bounty.
That Sikh man, right? That's been in the newspaper. He's been to every game since they started in 96 or 95.
Yep, he owns courtside seats, and every year he gives hundreds, if not thousands, of tickets away to kids who can't afford to go.
He's one of those independently wealthy dudes that made it in Canada, and I think there was a report saying he's been to every home game since the inception of the team. Yeah,
like, it's so crazy. So
he would be like, here's 10 grand, Torontonians, find it and bring him home.
So the Pickles GM, Ross Campbell, is having to think about what to do if Dylan never comes back. Right now, it's one day at a time for us. That's our mentality. But we may have to get to the point where the next man up. Of course, we have Little P, which is the Gherkins mascot. That's funny. That's our other team, but that's not Dylan. Let me make that very clear.
Say Little P the Gherkin.
Little P the Gherkin. So, I don't know. Like, obviously, it's one thing to make a mascot costume. That's a fair thing. And it's funny, my cousin-in-law, Andrew, is the mascot for the Toronto Rock. And he's a kid who's taken Second City. He's taken, like, acting classes at York University. He's been on a couple of big television commercials.
Second City, obviously known in Chicago, right? That was the main, that was the main original team. Of like the stand-up, or sorry, the improv troupe. and then Toronto was the sister city for that. That's where SCTV was started, right?
Yeah, so you got John Candy, Eugene Levy.
Yeah, it has a certain pedigree up here. While the live action performances were bigger down in the States, the TV show and all the fame that came from that was up here. So you're saying he's been trained with the same troupe that's the equivalent of like the SNL crew down in the States.
Yeah, and a lot of work goes into being a mascot. One of my childhood mascots is a guy named Cubby, who is the mascot for the Owen Sound Attack. And to walk around a giant arena in a very hot suit, but to also be friendly with fans, to get little kids to smile, to get the energy of an arena going, that can energize a team. That can tip a balance. When you have that arena roar behind you and you're on the ice, you change how you play.
Oh yeah.
When you play baseball and you hear that crowd chant going, it changes you. So
that would
to
be
have
like
a team,
if somebody stole the Uncle Hans costume from Oktoberfest here that we've had for 50 years, there'd be a manhunt. Like that.
Yeah.
So if you think it's goofy, like some towns have their mascot and don't mess with it.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying if somebody took the Philly Fanatic, somebody's going to get cut. Like there's just certain things you just don't do. And I don't know, like I hope this was a simple porch pirate theft and they feel bad and it's mysteriously returned in the middle of the night. No harm, no foul. I hope that's what happens. I hope this doesn't end up for sale on Craigslist or ends up on 4chan or something.
I hope it was a dumb kid, like under the age of 18, that thought it was a prank and maybe thought of doing like, oh, it looks like a pickle, I'm going to do a Pickle Rick thing or something, or just a dumb kid. I hope it's not a fully grown adult that did this because they thought it would be funny.
Yeah, like basically don't hurt people ultimately. And if you have this in your possession, I know you're not listening to this podcast, but in the off chance you are, just give it back.
And
I mean,
instead of jail time, you should be allowed to have one straight baseball bat to the nuts.
I was going to suggest community service working at the field.
Or to be fair, girls don't have nuts, so it's one paddle on the butt with a baseball bat as hard as possible. in public, and your cries have to be recorded for posterity for everybody to hear. The humiliation must be heard.
What I would do, and because I'm a more forgiving person than you, is I would give them community service.
They have to make a public television apology.
No, here's what I would do, because I think it's a little bit more poetic and it would help people. You have to work at the Portland Pickles venue for 1 year, for one baseball year.
After the games.
Or no, cleaning the stands.
Oh, that's even worse.
Because that's a lot of work. It would do certainly good for you to face the community that you wronged, but maybe it'll teach you a little bit of humility. Not to be cruel.
And make them clean it like for the whole year. It's chili dog days. So it's just a mess everywhere.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's an important thing to team morale. It's an important thing to a city, and for a minor league baseball team, that means a lot because that's not an insignificant cost. Those mascot costumes can cost a lot.
And all joking aside, yeah, the mascot, like if the Raptor in Toronto was taken, they got the millions to buy a new one. It doesn't cost that much, but for somebody that's not in the major leagues, that's a significant cost to replace.
Mm-hmm.
It could cost you 20-30 grand to get a good costume done.
Yeah, especially
if
you want it done fast.
And even a cheap one, easily 5 to 10 grand to have one made by hand. So that's not insignificant. They're going to have to fundraise to do that.
Yeah, like I'm really hoping that this gets returned and we have a happy ending to the story before spring training begins for these guys. Because I know Major League Baseball right now is going through some problems. So don't count on seeing your beloved local sports teams in the near future. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But so that's going to do it for this edition of the Weird News, only on ThisWeekInGeek.net. And we're going to take a different view of things. And Alex is going to take a look at some products being offered to us from PDP. So we will be back, guys, right after this with the closing and how you can win 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate from Microsoft Canada and the team from Halo. So we will be back, guys, right after this.
Alex here with part 2 of the review that I started about a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago, of the PDP new accessories that are geared towards people that purchase the new OLED Switch, in that they match the color scheme of that new like white and black aesthetic. And we previously talked about the controllers, which were the Rock Candy wired controller, which is the frost white one, and the Face Off Deluxe Plus audio wired controller, black and white. The last 2 accessories I wanted to mention that came in that box that we got is the Slim Deluxe case, which is a black and white case, and a level 40 wired gaming headset. We've reviewed the previous iterations of both of these in the past, so functionality wise they're going to be the same build quality, so good quality on the Slim case. It does fit the Switch OLED and previous regular Switch, because the physical outside dimensions of the actual Switch is not any different. It's how the makeup of the screen space is compared to the bezels of the actual unit, and the Joy-Cons are identical. So it's one of those cases where, yes, the screen is larger, but the screen just takes up more physical space on the casing. So, you can interchange it. You could use this case with your previous Switch, but it does have a nice, clean white and black aesthetic to go along with the actual OLED. As far as the level 40 wired headset, this is pretty much this is like their mid-range headset. It's compact, small enough to take with you on the go, but not overly large and cumbersome. Like some of the level 50 headsets are fantastic, but what they are is a little too big, I would say, for most people to just grab and go with and take with you on somewhere. So these are sort of a nice middle ground, in that a lot of cheaper headsets that are this size tend to be really low quality, and these aren't. They have pretty good full range dynamic drivers that provide a pretty good frequency response. They are white on the outside, obviously with black trim on the inside, and it matches quite well. So if you're looking for a complete sort of matching set to go along with like a wired controller and a case and everything, maybe you're doing a little streaming online, or you just want to get a complete set to go with the OLED. Say you're buying the OLED for the family and you want to get some accessories to go with it to make it look all fancy when you open it. It's something you can go with here. Like I said, the colors are interchangeable. It doesn't change the actual features of the headset, which has already been reviewed very highly praised with us. Probably the best entry level headset you can buy when it comes to Nintendo or gaming accessories. And obviously, because it is a wired it's wired with the 3-prong, or was it TRS plug, which is the standard you see for wired headsets for your phone or for other accessories like the Xbox or PlayStation. You could use that on any other device, and I've actually used it, plugged it into my PlayStation 5 controller to see what it sounds like through the Bluetooth audio there, and it sounds just as I figured, pretty high quality. Obviously, plugging in wired direct to a device versus using it as through like a Bluetooth dongle or a Bluetooth device is going to give you higher quality audio. But it is well built. The build quality is pretty good. It's not as solid as some more expensive devices can be, where it's possible that if you were torquing it the wrong way, or if you're just cramming it in a backpack and pulling it out improperly, you could bend it or snap it, but you'd have to put a fair amount of force in that to do it. It's actually pretty robust, and I don't think you'd have any trouble letting kids use it. So, if you're interested in picking up either of these devices, you can do so right on PDP's website or other retailers. But if you go through their website, we have a link that we're going to put in our show description here, that if you use that link, it'll give you 10% off by going through us. And if you don't use that link, but you want to just pick it up pretty much at any time on your own, just navigate to their site. You can use the coupon code TWIG10, that's TWIG and the number 10, and you'll get 10% off, and it'll sort of let them know that, hey, you came through us. So that's pretty much it when it comes to the line of OLED edition accessories that they've got out right now. They may have more coming in the future, and when more products come, we're going to check them out and make sure we let you know what you think. Because right now it's been mostly color editions and to match different games that have come out. Like we previously covered the ones that came out for Animal Crossing, and now we've got the OLED edition. So it'll be interesting to see what they come out with next.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us here on ThisWeekInGeek.net, as you have each and every week for about the last 15 or so years. Thank you so very much for joining us. So I mentioned off the top of the show, you've got a contest, and I've mentioned it if you've been following my social media, if you've been following our Instagram and our Facebook page, and I've talked about it, but we're going to talk about it here one more time here on the show. So until March 4th, 2022, we will announce more winners on March 6th, because we record these shows typically on Sundays. I'm giving away 5 Xbox 3-month Game Pass Ultimate codes for North America. And winning is remarkably easy. All you have to do is send us an email, feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tell us your favorite Halo memory, and at the end of the March 6th show, we will read a couple of them. Now, we've already read some of the ones that have been sent in to us, and that will be on our Halo special, which is coming out next week, where we had people from Jazwares talk to us. We had one of the authors of the Halo books. He did Halo New Blood, Halo Bad Blood, and Legacy of Onyx, I think. That was author Matt Forbeck. And that's a really big special. It's a long one. It may take you a couple tries to kind of listen to, but it was a really fun time doing an old school TWIG topic show that we used to do way back when the show started back in 2007. So we're going to be doing a couple of these throughout the year. Alex is going to be picking the next topic show because I picked this one.
No pressure, right?
Exactly.
It's also not like we have really no news at what's coming out in the next quarter yet. So
yeah, it's weird.
This will be an evolving topic, and if it doesn't turn out to be a video game, it might have to be on something else.
Yeah, it could be a movie, it could be a book, it could be an idea. The idea is it's something that we're passionate about, something we want
Communism
to learn more
and
about.
why it's the only way we can move forward.
But yeah, I mean, we've done topic shows in years past, and we've talked about everything from Freddy Krueger to Game of Thrones to Power Rangers. But it's time to revisit those topics. But before, we did the topics about once a month, and with me and Alex having so much review product, and with me in college, it's not feasible to do that.
Well, and then not to mention, even though they've been on hiatus, we have B-movie reviews, we've got commentaries, we've got sci-fi discussions, we've got Sunday Funnies. On top of that, we have other review shows and guest spots and other programs that we pop up on. You're looking at 7 to 8 different projects on the run at once. And unlike in the early days of TWIG, where you had 4 or 5 people doing individual shows, sometimes it's mostly you and I as the full-time crew, and then we have other co-hosts for the individual shows.
Yeah, like we bring in Ken and JT. JT, I know, can do things at the drop of a hat, but because I'm so busy with college and my activism work, I just don't have time to do as much as I'd like. So that's why me and Alex decided if we do a couple per quarter, that's pretty good.
We're also you're almost, well, actually you are 40, right?
I am 40, yeah.
So you're like man age, and I'm 35. I'm in that bracket now too, 35 to 49 or whatever it is, the age group. We are getting a little bit older, and yes, we have the time, but we have the energy to be doing.
Yeah, because actually a little bit of a peek behind the curtain tonight. I actually started contacting people for our Halloween show. Mike, it's February. Yeah, but we need to plan when we're taking our vacation at the beginning of July. That's some time to record people who I know whose availability is remarkably limited during the year.
And for last year, we started planning the talks in March to get with Rolf on that, right?
It was early in the year.
Because he has his regular schedule. When he, for you that listening might not know, when he comes and does the show with us, that's beyond his regular schedule. So when he comes with us, we wanted to make sure we planned it early enough, and we recorded that right as you were going on break. And I think you were that's when you just got out of the hospital and had come back from your health problems, and we were sort of going on break. So we recorded, our October show in July because, it turned out that's the only time that we could all line up. And it sounds crazy, but this isn't 2010 anymore, and everybody's gone in their own directions, right? So we all want to actually record together, but this is when the planning has to happen. Just like how movies usually start production 2 or 3 years before they come out. Sometimes if it's just a guest spot with somebody, it's 6 months ahead.
Yeah, like we really have to plan. And even as we mentioned, shows like Sunday Funnies and Future Imperfect, we're bringing those back now that my college is starting to wrap up for the semester. I don't start spring semester until May. We're going to have some more time. I know Alex said we might do, he's going to do some stuff with like Aaron, and then maybe we'll do something on, I can't even remember what we had suggested off the top of this show. But
I suggested some stuff for Ivan Reitman's work.
Yeah, like stuff like that. So that's stuff where we really got to start kind of planning ahead for it. So, but it's not that we're ever complaining. Just here's the process that we go through each and every week here on the show. And like I said, big thanks to everybody who's stuck with us for this long. Like I said, it's a labor of love, and doesn't matter whether you click a like on Facebook or a like on Twitter, or occasionally send us a note, because occasionally we do get some really, really nice fan mail. You're out there listening, and I know you appreciate us, and that's all that really matters.
And then the handful of people on YouTube, like it's by and far the smallest listener base we have, but you guys come and I've been told that the few of you guys that are listening there, that's how you prefer to listen, so we'll just keep pumping them out in any format that's available.
Yeah, so like I said, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. And like I said, and if you want to win 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, feedback at thisweekingeek.net, subject line Halo memories or something to that effect. Just tell us and share as much or as little as you want, and we will read those on the show, and I will be in contact with you, or Alex will be, and we'll send you those codes lickety-split. So coming up on the show next week, I've got some more RPG reviews. I just got a really nice box set from Wizards of the Coast, which has a new book that won't be released individually for quite some time, but if you want it now, you have to get a part of this box set. I also have the new source book for Dune. I have the player's guide for Star Trek Adventures. I'm sure we'll have some more movies and television shows come in as the next little bit carries on. So yeah, we're looking forward to covering more things for you. And so I guess until next time here on This Week in Geek, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.